To pay off my debts, I was forced to go to the city for work. They say being a golden cage bird brings quick money. To get picked as soon as possible, I forged my identity and became an Omega. The heir of a pharmaceutical group came down personally to select people, and I was chosen at first sight, thinking I was just going to be a golden cage bird. I didn't even glance at the contract before signing. One moment I was still daydreaming about free meals, housing, and full insurance, and the next moment, I caught sight of a clause in the contract. High payment for childbearing, get pregnant within a month, give birth within a year, leave the child with the father, compensation of 10 million. The sky fell on me. I'm a beta. Where am I supposed to have his kid? I stared at the bold headline and choked on my tea, coughing. So, do you have objections to the contract terms? Cough cough. No, none. The heir sat across from me on the sofa, chin slightly raised, and his lawyer stepped forward to collect the papers from the table. I watched the contract drift further away from me, feeling restless inside. I'd been honest all these years, and this was the only lie I told just to find a job. Yet I ended up with Sawyer, who demanded a baby for a huge sum. This had to be karma. The contract only lasts 1 year. I'll make sure you get pregnant quickly, then assign someone to take care of you. I'll cover all your living expenses. I have a villa in Lishan district. Tomorrow, someone will pick you up and take you there. Stay put and wait for me. I'll visit when I have time. One more thing you must remember, this is purely a business deal. Don't expect any feelings from me. Besides the money, you won't get anything else. The penalty clause is marked in the last few pages. I hope you read it carefully. I quickly grabbed my copy of the contract and flipped to the back. Sure enough, there was a staggering number. Selling me for that much? Not worth it at all. My mind raced like a CPU overheating. I couldn't come up with any good plan. Damn these useless hands. Why did I sign so fast back then? Any other questions? If not, you can leave now. Sawyer's tone was cold as he gave me the boot. I trembled as I took a sip of tea and cautiously asked, Employer, if I can't get pregnant, what then? Sawyer scoffed, as if I'd just told the funniest joke. Have you forgotten? Hengrul Pharmaceuticals is my family's business. No matter what incurable disease you have, there's no cure you can't get here. Ha ha ha, your company's really something. I smiled on the outside, but inside I was thinking, if Hengrul Pharmaceuticals really could boost a beta's fertility, the whole alliance wouldn't be struggling with birth rates. Before I finished my thoughts, the heir spoke confidently again. Besides, with my abilities and genes, I don't think you'll have trouble getting pregnant. Yeah, you're right, I was just overthinking. No matter what genes or abilities he's got, as long as I give birth, I'll be counting it as a miracle. Winter of the 357th year in the alliance. The war in the southwest region ended, but my father didn't come back alive. My mother was bedridden for a long time and, after hearing the news of my father's death, she grieved so much she passed away soon after, leaving only me and a mountain of debt behind. Maybe afraid I'd take my own life, my mother kept reminding me before she died to pay back every cent of the money we owed. My father's meager death benefit wasn't even enough to cover the interest on the debt. To repay it, I left the hometown I'd lived in for over 20 years and came to the capital of the alliance. Big cities have more opportunities. As long as I could find a job here, paying off my debts was just a matter of time, maybe even enough to live comfortably afterward, but I only wanted to clear my debts quickly so I could go back to be with them. So I chose the shortcut, never expecting to run into Sawyer. This big fool. Sawyer works very efficiently. The day after moving into the villa, his secretary transferred this month's payment, and I immediately used it to pay off my debt. Seeing the money appear and disappear from my account made me sigh. I don't create money, I'm just a money mover. After a week of anxiety, what was bound to happen finally happened. If it weren't for his early heat cycle this time, I probably would have waited even longer. After all, my employer doesn't want any lovers, he just wants a child. Feeling the overwhelming pressure of the pheromones flooding the room, my legs trembled like a sieve. During this time, I'd looked up Sawyer online. Not only is he the heir to the capital's Hengrul Pharmaceuticals, but also an S-rank alpha. He's not just good-looking, his physique and appearance are top-notch among alphas. There must be a line of people in the capital wanting to marry him. I really don't get why he's looking for someone just to have a child. Most importantly, I don't know if my little life can withstand this S-rank alpha. What if I don't even earn the money and end up dead? Then the debt still won't be paid, and my mother will nag me even more. Why are you standing outside? Come in already. I'm coming. I grit my teeth and pushed the door open. The wave of pheromones hit me like a tidal wave, clawing and trying to swallow me whole. Although I couldn't smell the pheromones, the pressure in the room was suffocating. S-rank alphas really are something else. The dim room had only a desk lamp glowing warmly, contrary to the aggressive feeling his pheromones gave. He sat quietly on the sofa, reading documents like a sacred and noble statue. Are you a stutterer? Why didn't your file say that? I don't stutter. I'm just nervous. He finally looked up at me, his eyes sharp as if trying to see right through me. I swallowed hard. Nervous about what? Didn't the doctor already come by yesterday to explain the process to you? My face flushed. He did send someone to teach me, but what I'm nervous about now isn't that. It's whether he'll find out I'm a beta when we actually do this. It's okay. It's okay. I sprayed myself with the lethal dose of pheromones my coworker gave me. I should be able to handle Sawyer for one night. I don't like dragging things out, and I don't have time to help you get used to this. Come here. We're going to get this over with quickly. I walked over to his side, only to be suddenly pulled into his arms. Maybe he'd been waiting too long. Sawyer didn't look too happy. At that moment, my faint sense of professionalism kicked in, and I leaned in to gently kiss the corner of his mouth. His breath hitched, and things quickly spiraled out of control. I felt like a block of wood freshly cut from a tree, stiff and damp, pain radiating from the cut as the lumberjack kept hammering, trying to carve a hole to plant his precious seed. Little did he know, the soil there wasn't fertile at all. The seed could never sprout. It was all pointless. Feeling a twinge of guilt toward Sawyer, I raised my hand to hug him gently despite the pain, but he misunderstood and hammered even harder. Sawyer was like a rabid dog starved for meat for 8 generations. That whole night, I fainted 4 or 5 times from being bent over, yet he refused to stop, determined to have a child no matter what. By the end, my neck was almost torn to pieces from his biting, and I nearly confessed that I was a beta. Luckily, I passed out first. Early the next morning, Sawyer was still asleep beside me. I got up to get a drink but found my body stiff and sore, like my bones had been taken apart and put back together wrong. Awake? Startled by the voice, I shivered. Sawyer had woken up sometime and was staring at me with his sharp phoenix-like eyes, looking awful. Good morning, employer. Humph. I was the one who'd been bent over all night, yet he had the nerve to look so grumpy. Employer, are you feeling unwell? I'm fine. But you, when did the Omega I hired turn into a beta? My mind went blank, and the blood seemed to freeze in my veins. I didn't dare look at Sawyer or answer back. I just lay there with my eyes closed, pretending to be dead. Don't tell me you just redifferentiated this week. Cold sweat pouring, I stammered. If I said yes, then I'd really kill you. Your glands are shriveled up like that, yet you still pretend to be an Omega. Do you think alphas and heat are idiots? Sawyer got up and started dressing, his tone icy. The penalty amount is clearly written in the contract. You better prepare that money early, so I don't have to get my lawyers involved. The moment I heard penalty, my body reacted faster than my brain. Ignoring the pain, I grabbed the corner of Sawyer's shirt. Employer, let's talk this through. Even if I can't have children, I can do other things for you. Bodyguard, nanny, cleaner. If all else fails, I can be your pet dog or toy. Please, don't throw me away. At that moment, dignity and pride didn't matter to me at all. As long as I didn't rack up more debt, I'd do anything. Sawyer glanced back at me with a complicated expression. I'm not that perverse yet. Suddenly, his phone rang. I nervously watched as Sawyer answered. A middle-aged man's voice came through. Young master, Madam asked me to remind you about the end-of-month banquet. You missed the last one. And the old master was very angry. Also, Madam has arranged a new matchmaking candidate this time. Before he finished, Sawyer cut him off. Did you forget who took pity on you and let you stay here? Go tell her to stop using my father to pressure me. My marriage isn't her business. Also, Sawyer seemed to remember something and turned his gaze toward me, looking me over with a sly smile. I'll be back at the end of the month. Tell them to prepare. I'll give them both a surprise. After hanging up, Sawyer's smile deepened, giving me goosebumps. He reached out, hooked his finger under my chin, and whispered like a demon. Get up, time to work. Sawyer didn't throw me away, nor did he let me off easy. From the moment the call ended, he took full control. Every day, besides learning how to play the role of an Omega and cramming etiquette and manners, I also had to study Mandarin. He said every time he heard me speak, it felt like being on a desert frontier with sand blowing everywhere. City folks really care about how they speak. He could have just dismissed me for sounding so rural, but he didn't. Though he wanted to buy me new clothes, he still had to mock me first. You dress like a rag all the time. Are you a wildling? This fabric's so rough. Doesn't it itch? Though Sawyer's words were harsh, he wasn't a bad person, at least he showed respect in actions. The day before, he'd yelled at his secretary to throw my outdated clothes in the trash. But the next day, my clothes were neatly folded and placed on the bottom shelf of the wardrobe. He always complained about the daily necessities I brought from the village, but once I got new stuff, he had someone pack up the old items and set them aside. I learned slowly, so he tutored me every night. I kept stepping on his feet during ballroom dance practice, and though he mocked me, he patiently taught me again and again. But he still hadn't given up on his baby-making plan. After back-to-back classes all day, I had to stay up at night with Sawyer studying how to make a beta have a baby. Life was even more exhausting than when I did odd jobs in the village. The day before the banquet, I finally reached my limit. I laid on him and asked the question I'd been curious about from the start. Employer, do you really have to have a child? Why not adopt? He panted in my ear. Ha, do you take me for some old bachelor from your village who'd adopt if he couldn't have a kid? If it weren't for my grandfather's will requiring an heir within 3 years, I wouldn't bother with this at all. He flipped me onto my back and bent down to kiss me. But employer, we've been trying for over half a month. I really can't have a child. Maybe you should find someone else. Before I finished, he refused flat out. No. Weakly, I asked, why? I don't like messing around. Don't forget, from the start, we signed a contract for having a child. I'm just fulfilling my part. I was left speechless. Sawyer pinched my chin, looking me over with interest. Besides, you're way more interesting than those omegas. Interesting? In what way? He never praised me except in bed. What was so interesting about me? Maybe betas are just more durable than omegas. His sudden kiss left me breathless, and the lumberjack resumed his carving. Just as he was about to reach the right spot, Sawyer suddenly stopped. I felt like driftwood floating in a bay, unable to reach shore, agonizing inside. By the faint moonlight, our eyes met. His looked like a starving wolf on the grassland, and the smile at the corner of his lips was especially enticing. You almost fooled me. Ha, Shane, what did you just call me? Employer, the lumberjack's tools started twitching again, as if punishing me, lightly tapping the wood. What should you call me? My nearly overloaded brain scrambled for an answer and finally found the word. Husband. Sawyer narrowed his eyes, satisfied. Remember that, don't get it wrong tomorrow. Like receiving an order, the lumberjack suddenly got enthusiastic again and dove back into the carving. The next afternoon, I went to the old family mansion with Sawyer. Sawyer told me that the family fortune was built by his grandfather. His grandfather had only one daughter, and Sawyer's father was a son-in-law who married in. Unfortunately, his mother passed away early, and the old man held on until Sawyer came of age before he died. The will clearly stated that Sawyer was the sole heir, but his father wouldn't agree. He kept insisting on the clause requiring an heir within 3 years. His stepmother even tried to control Sawyer's marriage to install her own candidate. That's why Sawyer had to take this desperate step. Before we got out of the car, Sawyer suddenly pulled me close, holding me so affectionately we looked like a couple madly in love. What's up, husband? He held me tighter and whispered into my ear. Shh, don't get out yet. Sawyer went quiet. I thought someone might be watching us outside, so I leaned closer into his chest. I could clearly hear his strong heartbeat, thumping one beat after another. Husband, are you nervous? Your heart's racing. He didn't say a word, but his breathing grew heavier above my head. I didn't dare look up and kept whispering. Husband, are you okay? Husband, if you can hear me, just make a sound. Husband. I shifted slightly, trying to see how he was doing, but accidentally bumped into his lumberjack tools. Suddenly, it all clicked. We looked at each other, both our faces flushed so deeply they looked like they could bleed. I quickly pulled away from his embrace. Sawyer cleared his throat awkwardly. Cough. Not bad for improvisation. Act more natural later, and I'll give you a raise if you do well. I nodded randomly. Yeah, got it. After we got out of the car, Sawyer took my hand. The moment our skin touched, I flinched like I'd been shocked, but he grabbed me firmly. Don't panic. Be confident and natural. Even though he said that, I still felt uneasy all over. After just a few steps, I couldn't help but reach up to touch the collar around my neck. Sawyer stood beside me just in time and pretended to straighten my clothes. No need to be nervous. I'll be right by your side. Be confident. You look great today. My face instantly burned. Sawyer seemed pleased with my reaction. Just as the butler opened the door to greet us, Sawyer kissed my cheek. Pretty Omega. A reminder not to forget my role. To outsiders, we looked like the perfect loving couple, but only I knew it was all an act, and yet, I had truly fallen for him. The butler led us through the garden to the main hall. By then, the banquet was already well underway. The moment we entered, there were vibrant decorations and lively celebrations everywhere. What a dazzling world! Those who knew I was here for the banquet might understand, but strangers could have sworn it was some royal matchmaking event. Sawyer was indeed a hot commodity among Omegas, but Sawyer himself looked calm, even a bit disgusted deep in his eyes. A middle-aged woman dressed in fine clothes approached from the crowd. The butler immediately bowed. "Madam, young master has returned. I know. You may leave." The woman's sharp eyes clearly saw me at first glance but pretended not to notice, putting on a friendly front as she spoke to Sawyer. "Well, look at you, finally back. You'll have to stay longer this time. Take a look, these are all young talents from Licheng. Your father wants you to choose one tonight. I think that young master from the Jing family is quite good. His father is." Before she finished, Sawyer interrupted. "No need. Save your energy. Don't wear yourself out before the old man dies." The woman's face immediately darkened with rage, shifting from pale to purple. "Tell my father I brought a daughter-in-law home. We'll discuss things in the study. No latecomers." When he said daughter-in-law, he raised his voice intentionally. Guests nearby quietly stopped to look. Sawyer squeezed my hand, and I pretended to be affectionate, hooking my arms around his. Together, we confidently walked through the crowd and upstairs. The guests were in an uproar, and I could still hear the noise downstairs as we entered the study, mostly complaints about being played and losing face. But I had no time to care. I was just amazed at how big everything was. The study was almost as big as the village library back home. Before we could sit, footsteps sounded outside. Leading was an alpha, leaning on a cane, veins bulging with anger. The woman followed behind, enjoying the show. "Look at what you've done. Right here in front of everyone. You've humiliated me." Sawyer was unfazed. "How is that humiliating? I brought you a daughter-in-law. That's something to be proud of. If you can't see that, you really are old and senile." His father was momentarily speechless. I took the chance to perform my part enthusiastically. "Uncle, Auntie, hello, I'm Shane, Sawyer's boyfriend." His father gave me a look, the kind that made me feel like an object being appraised, not a person. He snorted coldly and stubbornly asked Sawyer, "Whose child is this? I've never seen him before." "What do you mean, whose child?" "Shane is the one I brought back from the club. I fell for him at first sight and liked him so much we made it official as soon as we got home." "You?" Sawyer squeezed my hand again, and I quickly continued. "At that time, my parents had just passed away. I was forced to leave home to pay debts and suffered a lot at the club. Luckily, I met Sawyer. He didn't despise me and took me home. We even have a child from our love." I stroked the belly that couldn't possibly carry a child, blushing deeply, then shyly turned around and leaned into Sawyer's arms. The old man's veins bulged with fury as he shouted, "Nonsense! This is ridiculous. I thought that was my best performance of the night. After all, the debt and hard work to repay it were true." The blushing was purely because I thought about Sawyer hammering away every night trying to make a baby. Before I could finish blushing, I remembered the last lines of my script and shyly said, "Uncle, I truly love Sawyer. Why not accept me as your daughter-in-law and make things easier for us?" Sawyer's chest rumbled with laughter. He was definitely breaking character. "Dad, sometimes you need to put yourself in my shoes. Wasn't it ridiculous when you were sneaking around behind Mom's back, and I never yelled at you like this? You just want me to get married and have kids. I actually brought someone home, and now you're unhappy." I hid in Sawyer's arms, silently shaking my head. His family drama was even more soap opera level than anything I'd seen back in the village on nightly TV. His father couldn't argue with Sawyer and grabbed his cane to strike. We clung to each other, like star-crossed lovers unwilling to let go. "Now that there's a daughter-in-law, and a grandson's coming soon, you'd better give up trying to take the inheritance. Stay out of trouble, and I'll take care of you in your old age. Otherwise, you know what'll happen to you." Sawyer dropped that harsh warning and escorted me out of the study. His father, still angry, picked up a tool and threw it in our direction as we left. Only after we got back to the car did I realize my left shoulder was sore. 10. My back felt swollen, but I didn't dare tell Sawyer, afraid he'd scold me, or worse, dock my pay. I endured it all until lumberjack time, but he still caught on. Sawyer pinned me down on the bed, ice pack pressed against the bruise, scolding me as he did. "Been hissing and sizzling for ages. Thought you turned into a snake spirit again. Your shoulders swollen up like a pig's head, and you're letting me do this? You planning not to live past tomorrow and want to die from this session? Fine. You won't say a word. I want to see how much pain you can really take." He removed the ice pack and started applying ointment. He sounded harsh, but honestly wasn't pressing too hard. When he finished, I turned to ask, "Boss, you still planning to give me that raise?" Sawyer didn't expect that question. He froze for a moment, then his eyes darkened, clearly unhappy. "Humph, not even caring about your own safety, but still thinking about a raise." Outside, the rain started to patter softly. I'm no good at comforting, didn't know why he was upset, and feared he'd go back on his word. So finally I mustered the courage to ask, "So, boss, what about that money?" I was abruptly scooped up from the other side. Sawyer dressed me in pajamas, then turned off the lights and went to sleep. Wrong thing said again. Thunder rumbled outside, the rain pouring harder, clearly not stopping anytime soon. I carefully lay on my side, just closing my eyes when I heard him shift behind me, followed by his low voice. "Why do you want so much money anyway?" I tried to turn toward him but he stopped me. I answered with my back to him. "To pay off debts." "How much?" "8 million. That little? What about your parents?" Sawyer paused. He'd seen my files and probably already knew I was an orphan. "They're gone. After you clear the debts, what will you do?" "Maybe go home. I need to be with them." A long silence followed, so long I thought Sawyer had fallen asleep. Then came a murmured whisper from behind, blending with the storm's rumble. "I have money. Lots and lots of money. I'll give you money. Stay by my side." "Okay." 11. Right, Sawyer had tons of money. Luxury cars, villas, wealth, and status, all of it. But lying behind me now, he seemed to have nothing at all. Lonely and empty, desperately trying to get warmth from another person. Too bad he picked the wrong one, a rootless weed with no future, unable to give him what he wanted. I didn't respond, curling into a turtle shell and pretending to be asleep. The day after Sawyer brought me home, news spread all over Licheng. The heir of Hengrul Pharma and his golden darling were getting married. Sawyer's buddies exploded in the group chat. Rowan dragged everyone into a video call. "Dude, you're serious? We said no marriage. How'd you break the rule? Without you single blocking the way, how am I supposed to survive the new year? River, where's the brother-in-law? Show him to us." "Orion, wasn't it just the other day someone said, as long as the kid doesn't involve feelings? Looks like the act got to you." The three chattered, ignoring Sawyer's life and death, purely there for the drama. Sawyer rolled his eyes. "If others believe it, fine, but are you guys zombies? How can you be this dumb?" River, "Yeah, you're so smart coming up with this baby-making scheme to dodge the marriage. I couldn't think of that." Sawyer, "If you had a dad trying to take the company every day and a stepmom stuffing her people around you, you'd figure it out too. Anyway, that's the situation. If you've got advice, spit it out. If not, scram." Scram was impossible. They quickly organized a meetup, and that afternoon Sawyer took me to meet his friends. 12. Sawyer's circle wasn't big, only 5 people, all alphas except one omega. Zane, studying abroad. Rowan was the talkative one. Zane was his cousin. From them, I learned a lot about Sawyer and Zane. They were childhood sweethearts with an arranged engagement. After differentiation, one was alpha, the other omega, perfectly matched in looks and pheromones. Zane stayed with Sawyer during his heat period, and Sawyer had even pursued him. Unfortunately, some conflict arose, and Zane went abroad to study. From elementary to high school stories, Rowan was clearly their hardcore shipper. My chest tightened uncomfortably. I knew I was jealous, but I didn't even have the right to be jealous. I comforted myself, childhood sweethearts and broken relationships aren't as real as money. Once I pay off my debts, I'll go home and never come back to this useless place. Sawyer and Orion returned from outside. Seeing Rowan still sitting by me, Sawyer came over and pulled him away. Peace at last. In the following days, Sawyer's stepmother repeatedly tried to drive me away, wanting to plant her people beside him. After I rejected her, she tried bribing me to spy on them, but I refused hard. Why? Because she offered too little. The moment I asked for more, she backed down. Powerless and poor, typical. She wanted to ruin someone's livelihood without paying a cent. Always scheming. Sawyer thought I was loyal and happily paid off my debts. Now he had transformed into my creditor. True capitalist. Never let middlemen make a profit. Sawyer kept hammering away every night, but never spoke like that again. I suspected he was just lonely and that night's storm made him confess. Even if someone else had been lying next to him, he'd have said the same. TSK, can you focus? Why have you been spacing out so much lately? Am I really that unattractive to you? Sorry, I didn't mean to. I was genuinely tired. Even if betas were stronger than omegas physically, I couldn't keep up with his relentless pace. Now I think maybe you can't get pregnant because you're not focused enough. Starting next week, we're stepping it up. I don't believe you still can't. Heavens as witness, beta fertility is low because of physiology, not because of focus. Boss, is it possible I just can't have kids? Maybe you should find an omega-2. Before I finished, Sawyer cut me off, blocking my mouth. You either say nothing or chatter nonsense. None of it's what I want to hear. Tomorrow the secretary will sign you up for a speech class. Learn what real language art is. Unfortunately, the speech lessons never happened. Sawyer's childhood sweetheart returned to the country. 13. No wonder Rowan praised him. Sawyer's childhood sweetheart was truly beautiful, elegant like a freshly bloomed iris. From the moment he walked in, I knew there was no comparison between us. And honestly, I couldn't hate him either. No tree stump would dislike having such a gorgeous flower nearby, and I was no exception. Long time no see. Yeah. Zane's gaze landed unapologetically on Sawyer. He stepped forward to hug him, then slowly made his way through the crowd and looked at me. So you must be Shane. Nice to meet you. He extended his hand gracefully, and I shook it. Nice to meet you too. His grip was firm, and his eyes filled with hostility. Clearly, he saw me as a rival. Stop standing around. The food will get cold. River called everyone to the table. Sawyer pulled me close to sit beside him, while Orion placed Zane on his right. We ended up sitting across from each other, separated by several people, and I kept catching Zane's resentful eyes. To avoid looking at him, I kept my head down on the dishes. By the end of the meal, I hadn't eaten enough, and my neck was stiff from all the twisting. Luckily, Orion's villa was spacious. During a break before the next round, I slipped out to the balcony for some fresh air. You think they're all really boring too, don't you? What? The sudden voice startled me. I turned and saw Zane standing at the balcony door, watching me. Otherwise, why else would you come out here? No, I just wanted some air. Though it was spring, the night breeze was chilly. Zane wore a thin shirt. Shivering, I took off my jacket and offered it to him. He looked surprised, his face reddening like a persimmon. Flustered, he snapped, I don't need your jacket. I'm not cold. Take it anyway. Wouldn't want you to catch a cold. You're so annoying and fake. I thought you were some big shot, but you're just like the rest. Humph. Let me be clear. Sawyer will never marry someone like you. Don't think being gentle and caring is enough to win him. He's just playing with you. I know. We're just employer and employee. The day Sawyer signed the contract, he told me not to expect any feelings. Apart from the money, he won't give me anything. Of course, I'm only responsible for taking the money and doing the work. Nothing else is part of my job. Zane didn't expect me to lay everything bare and was stunned into silence. Humph. You're wise to know your place. Satisfied, Zane left but paused at the door corner, his face sour. I put my jacket back on and was about to return inside when I saw Sawyer and Orion by the corner, Orion holding my jacket. 14. Orion had sent Zane away, leaving just Sawyer and me staring at each other. After a long silence, Sawyer finally broke it. Don't you have anything to say to me? Say what? He frowned, lips trembling, wanting to speak but holding back. I understood immediately. Boss, are you still afraid he might misunderstand? Don't worry, I explained everything clearly. Made our relationship crystal clear. If you want to win him back, I can act with you again. You two can be happy together. No worries about having kids or your stepmom causing trouble. After you clear my debts, I'll leave and never bother you again. Enough, Sawyer snapped sharply, his face dark as iron, voice colder than ever. Shane, is money really the only thing you see? He stared deeply, trying to find the answer he wanted in my eyes, but I looked away. Yes, boss. I still have debts I can't pay off. Sawyer froze, then gave a self-mocking laugh. Right, you still owe debts and need lots of money. Otherwise, you can just wait for this creditor of yours to have mercy, then maybe you can go home. Ha ha ha. I'm actually asking why you only see money in your eyes. How ridiculous. His laugh was more painful than crying, and for a moment, he seemed like a stranger. But soon, he pulled himself together and turned back into the prince I knew. Sawyer left, and the hallway was empty except for me. I wandered for a bit until hunger reminded me it was late. I kinda wanted to go home. Sawyer got drunk, so I stayed overnight at Orion's, with Zane also there. At 3 a.m., Sawyer woke me up with a heat flash. Still drunk and unconscious, I had to get up and ask Orion for suppressants. After searching downstairs with Orion, I came back to find Zane sitting beside Sawyer's bed, calming him with pheromones. I gave Sawyer the suppressant, then stepped outside the door, looking at the hand that had just touched him for a long time. What does pheromone actually smell like? It's the scent of iris. I turned sharply toward the voice. Orion was leaning against the wall, smoking. He turned and awkwardly stubbed out the cigarette. "Ah, sorry, I got it wrong. Sawyer's pheromone is actually Lily of the Valley." "Oh, Lily of the Valley must smell nice too." Later that night, Orion found another guest room for me, saying he'd keep an eye on Sawyer, but I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, closing my eyes. All I saw was Zane comforting Sawyer at the bedside. Sawyer needed an omega, more than anyone. I understood that. Zane had his own company backing him. Sawyer's alliance with him would be solid. I was only a nuisance here. Maybe it was time to pack up and run. 15. The next morning, as soon as Sawyer woke, he insisted on going to the company. Orion couldn't argue and drove him, with Zane naturally tagging along. All four had their own worries. No one said much. From that day, Sawyer basically lived at the office. He only came home occasionally to pick up documents. That made it easier for me to pack and prepare to leave. I quietly asked the secretary about Sawyer's schedule. She thought I missed him, so reported to Sawyer. After permission, she shared his calendar with me. I checked it and bought a ticket for Monday. Sawyer had a full day of meetings then and couldn't leave. With my luggage and supplies packed, I was ready to run. But that Sunday afternoon, Sawyer suddenly returned. I hurriedly stuffed my things into the closet and went out to meet him. "Boss, why are you back? This is my home. Can't I come back?" Sawyer looked at me, and I felt guilty looking back. "So nervous. Are you hiding a man at home?" "Me? Boss, you're overestimating me." "Then what are you nervous about?" "I'm just excited. Been too long since I saw you. I missed you." Sawyer seemed to eat that up. He didn't press further, leaned down to kiss me until my legs went weak and I couldn't stand. Then he finally let go. I rested in his arms a while before hearing him say, "Since you missed me so much, I'm not going back tonight. I'll stay and keep you company." Wow, that mouth of his. What have you gotten us into? 16. Sawyer was dead set on staying the night, worried that saying too much might make him suspicious. I obediently went to take a shower. Luckily, I'd been cautious and already bought a ticket for noon tomorrow. Once Sawyer left in the morning, I planned to sneak away. When I came out of the bathroom, Sawyer was staring blankly at a glass of milk. Seeing me, he casually handed it over. "I warmed up some milk for you. Drink it while it's hot." I was too busy to think much and took a quick sip. I didn't know where he got the milk, but it tasted odd. Not long after lying down, I started feeling off, dizzy and strangely hot all over. Could Sawyer have slipped something into the milk? I'd been cooperating pretty well with the wood chopping, so this didn't make sense. Sawyer was still in the bathroom. In a daze, I caught a faint scent, and a dull ache began in my lower abdomen. The scent grew stronger as Sawyer sat down on the edge of the bed. "Boss, what's wrong? My stomach really hurts." "What did you put in the milk?" "Fertility medication." "What?" Sawyer stroked my face, his eyes dark and unreadable. "We signed a baby-making contract. You said you were here for the money and just fulfilling the contract. Don't worry, this medicine passed clinical trials. Be good, and the pain will ease soon." My senses sharpened intensely. That scent wrapped around me, trying to soothe. Only then did I realize it was Sawyer's pheromone. The wood was chained again. Maybe it was the pheromone the lumberjack released, or the medicine's effect. This time, the reaction was stronger than any before. In the end, I cried and begged the lumberjack for mercy. I weakly grabbed Sawyer. "Boss, please go easy on me." Sawyer looked down on me. "I don't like being called boss. Call me by my name." "Sawyer." "Yeah." He smiled at me, then quickened the pace of chopping. I'd fallen for it. Saying Sawyer seemed like a catalyst. Each time I called his name, he worked even harder. We finally stopped only when the sky was brightening. 17. The next morning when my alarm went off, I was alone. Sometimes I wonder if Sawyer ever risks sudden death, staying up all night and still working the next day. Maybe alphas have extraordinary endurance. Betas like me don't. Long periods without exercise and any intense activity makes me feel like I'm falling apart. I packed all the expensive gifts Sawyer gave me into a box, placing it on the sofa in plain sight, along with my farewell letter. Wearing the outfit Sawyer mockingly called my rag, I dragged my luggage and quickly left the northern capital. 3 trains, a cart, and a donkey ride later, I finally made it home. After 6 months away, the house was just as I'd left it. I visited my parents' graves and shared my past 6 months with them. It grew dark before I could finish, but I figured it didn't matter, we'd meet soon anyway. After tidying the house, I tied a coarse rope to the beam, ready to end it all. When I slipped my neck into the loop, I thought of Sawyer, the unlucky fool who got tricked by a fake identity but still helped me pay off so much debt. I'll never be able to repay Sawyer in this life, maybe next life. I gave a gentle kick, but before I could hang, the house collapsed. I crawled out of the rubble dazed. My mom always said the house was cheaply built because we were poor, don't mess with it. Turns out she was right. 18. 2 weeks later, I opened a Mandarin training class in a neighboring town. The night the house collapsed, the neighbors were woken up and found out I tried to kill myself. They quickly told the village chief. The chief came overnight to counsel me. The village is aging rapidly, and young people like me are rare, no way could I be allowed to die. At the end, he lent me a storefront at his uncle's place in the next town for free. That's how the Mandarin class started. At least Sawyer's money wasn't wasted. Things seemed to be settling. Over the next few months, I saved most of what I earned, some for rent and daily expenses, the rest saved to pay Sawyer back. I wondered how Sawyer was doing. Was work still as hectic? Had his wife come back to bother him? How were things with Zane? Were they married yet? I didn't know. This place was too far from the capital. The village still mainly used radio communication, TVs were rare. News from outside had to cross 3 big mountains to reach here. I focused on the training, trying not to think about him. Unfortunately, soon my health started to fail. At first, I had stomach pains. I thought it was a side effect from that fertility drug, since I could still smell the faint pheromone on my clothes. Later, dizziness, headaches, and fever came. The flu was rampant in the village, and I took cold medicine for days before feeling better. Then my appetite surged, and I spent all my money on food. After eating, I'd feel sleepy and low energy. Finally, I noticed my belly was swelling. I went to the village clinic. The doctor said he had no idea what was wrong. That scared me. I was just starting to want to live. What if it was cancer? That night, I took 3 rides over mountains to the city hospital. The doctor told me, "Congratulations, you're pregnant. The fetus is healthy and already 4 months along." I sat dumbfounded in the hospital corridor, clutching the report. Is Sawyer's family's ancestral grave really smoking? Before, with all his trouble, I couldn't get pregnant. How did I suddenly conceive? Patients and nurses glanced at me oddly. I figured beta pregnancies were rare but didn't think it warranted such stares. A kid sat beside me and asked, "Big brother, is that you on TV?" I followed his finger and saw myself on the hospital screen. High reward offered. The fiancé of Hengrul Pharmaceuticals CEO went missing on May 7. 358. Still not found. Anyone with information, big or small, will be rewarded 30 million. Contact number. That ugly photo was the one the club manager took when I first came to the city. But none of that mattered. The real question was, am I really worth that much? Does he want me, or want me dead? Why put up a bounty? 19. I didn't have time to say much more to the kid before waving him off and hurriedly stepping outside to catch a donkey cart and run away. Sawyer's bounty poster had even reached the border city. Knowing his temper, once he found me, he'd probably skin me alive. One problem after another, no end in sight. That night, I tossed and turned in bed, unsure what to do about the baby. I couldn't go back to Sawyer. I only drifted off around 5 in the morning, when suddenly someone knocked on the door. At first, I thought I imagined it, but the knocking persisted. Even the neighbor aunt came out to scold, yet the person kept knocking. Squinting, I got up to open the door. Before I could see who it was, someone grabbed me into their arms. I struggled to push away but was held tighter. "Don't move." That voice, Sawyer. He wrapped me in his coat and carried me inside, making sure to close the door behind him. Trying to run when death is at your heels. How come I never knew you were this bold? Hiding in a place like this made it too easy for me to find you. His voice was hoarse and cold, like he wanted to devour me alive. Yet his body clung to mine honestly, like a kid clutching a beloved toy, rubbing against my neck. "Boss, actually I tried to explain I wasn't running, but my mouth was silenced. After a long struggle, he finally let go, setting me down on the bed. The rental was small, most space given over to the classroom, furniture sparse and simple. Sawyer patted the bed, disgusted, not even as good as my doghouse. Then, pulling me down with him, he tossed a blanket over us and held me close. He kept his arms tight around my waist. I was nervous, afraid he'd do something reckless, but he just held me. "Don't move. If you run again, I'll catch you and chain you up." 20. I'm not trying to run. I told you, I don't like being called boss. Don't call me that anymore. Oh. Sawyer closed his eyes to rest. I stared at his face and noticed how much thinner he looked. Why so quiet? What should I say? Anything. Did you put out that bounty just to drag me back and make me pay my debts? Sawyer opened his eyes, frowning deeply. I guessed you'd regress in speech, but didn't expect your intellect to follow so soon. It's only been a few months, and your language skills can't keep up with your brain. You're probably going to ask how things are with me and Zane. Are we married yet? I bit my lip, silent. I wanted to ask, but dreaded the answer. I'll tell you, we are married. My heart dropped to the pit of my stomach. I stopped looking at him. If things were like this, why was he still here? We got married last month. He's already with Orion now. What? Orion and Zane got married. Want me to say it again? But didn't you have history? Sawyer looked shocked. Who told you that? When did we have history? It was all one-sided on Zane's part, but Rowan said differently the other day. I muttered softly. Sawyer's anger flared instantly. You actually believe that Gossip King? When we get back, I'll sew his mouth shut. I hid under the blanket as he cursed. Then Sawyer sighed. How did I end up liking such an idiot like you? His sudden confession made me flush hard inside the covers. You begged me not to leave you back then, but you turned around and abandoned me. Shane, what exactly do I mean to you? Through the blanket, I whispered, you're the father of my child. What? Sawyer, if I really gave you a child, would the 10 million compensation in the contract still count? Sawyer quickly recovered from his shock. Of course it counts. I'm yours now. What's 10 million more? Blushing, I lifted the blanket to show him my belly. The baby's here. Remember to send me the money. He gently stroked my stomach, tears of joy in his eyes. Fine, fine. Forget the money. You could break my bones to make soup, and I'd still be happy. Sawyer hugged me tight. Shane, let's go home. I raised my hand to hold him back. In the year 358 of the Allied Nations, the debt collector tracked me down at home. He said he wanted not only the money but me too. Even after knowing I was carrying his child, he still wanted the baby. He took me from the village all the way back to the capital. From then on, I had a home again.